Hi, I'm Jenn Welby Gilbert of the Giving Project for Children, and we're here today for Tip Tuesday. We've decided to pause our discussion of math strategies to focus on something a little bit more pressing. Over the past week, things in the United States in particular have changed drastically since the death of George Floyd. I've had so many conversations with parents, I've had so many questions from parents on how do we talk to our kids about this? How do we address this with our children in an appropriate way and make sure that they're hearing us and making sure that, more importantly, we're hearing them. So today, I want to talk to you about a 3-step method that we've been developing to talk to your kids and to educate your kids and to ensure that you are meeting them where they are. So step 1, our 3-step method is talk, read, act. So the first one, talk. You want to make sure, like any really important conversation, that you are the one having this conversation with your child. This is not a conversation that you want to pick them to pick up bits and pieces from the news. This is not a conversation that you want them to hear from someone else. Obviously, you don't have to worry about them picking things up on the bus in this conversation, but you want to make sure that you're the one having this. So we want to make sure that we address it in an appropriate way. The next thing that you want to think about is how. I had so many parents ask me, I don't know where to begin and I don't want to say the wrong thing and I'm not sure exactly how to phrase things properly. And I've had a few conversations with some really good friends and some colleagues about this in particular. And all of them resoundingly say that it's more important to have the conversation and not say things perfectly than to not have the conversation at all. So I think that's a really important place for us to start, is that we need to have this conversation. You need to start this conversation with your children. So next, the conversation is going to vary that you have with your child based on a few things, a few factors. Number 1, your child's age. Number 2, who they are as a person. If your child is a really emotional, sensitive person, then you might want to think about how you're approaching this, as well as the media and literature that you're using when conversing about this. And number 3, their history, their awareness of the topic, where they are, where they're coming to this conversation from. So their experience. So if you haven't had this conversation yet, or your child is really young, I think that it's really important for you to, I'm gonna link a few websites in the comments that you can refer to. But I think that it's important to make it small. And what I like to think about when having any important conversation with your kiddo is that you should think about your kiddo's age and the number of minutes and cut that in half. So if your kiddo is 4 years old, your conversation should be no longer than 2 minutes. If your kiddo's 10, your conversation should be no longer than 5 minutes long. You want to keep things short and sweet. And what's really more important is that you bring things up frequently and that this is not the end of the conversation. You're not having one talk to talk about slavery and inequality and you're going to be done. No, that kind of leads us to where we are right now, that we thought we've fixed this problem and this problem is not fixed. It's just continuing to bubble under the surface. And so we need to remember that with our kiddos too. This is going to be something that you're going to have to continue to kind of touch on as you move forward. So if you're talking about a first timer, a kiddo who might not have a lot of experience with this topic, a great place to start is fairness. My almost 2-year-old already knows about fairness. He knows if his brother's banana is bigger than his. He knows if they're given a different number of cookies or nuts or whatever it may have you. Kiddos understand fairness from a very early age. So fairness is a great way to start. So your conversation may go somewhere, something along the lines of, hey bud, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on right now in our world. And there are some things out there that are not fair and people that are treating people unfairly based on who they are. And that's not okay. We want to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and everyone has the same opportunities that you have and that you have the same opportunities that other people have. So if you get to go on the slide, you want to make sure that everybody gets to go on the slide. And if you get to have banana bread for breakfast? Do you want to make sure that everybody gets to have banana bread? And that might be where that conversation starts. And that may continue on the next step to talk about how that fairness and that inequality can be based on your skin color, what you believe in, who you choose to love. And I guarantee you, if your kiddo is attending school in any form, even a pre-K, that they've heard this conversation before, that they have an understanding of Martin Luther King Jr., that they have an understanding of segregation. These things teachers weave into these conversations and into curriculum from a very, very early age. So you may find that your kiddo goes, oh, I remember talking about that. And then you can take a sigh of relief and know that you're starting from a later point than you thought. So I would say your first conversation is based on fairness. Your second conversation can be going into history, the history of slavery and the civil rights movement, and then into what's happening now. And your third conversation can be talking about empathy and how do you think people who are struggling with this are feeling? And how would you feel if someone didn't treat you the same because you looked differently or you acted differently? So I think those are kind of your three steps of conversations: fairness, history, and how we got to where we are, and then empathy. The second part of this, how we're doing this, is reading. Children's literature is incredible, and it can be used in so many ways and can be so helpful. So I think that when you're talking about step 2 of reading, there's two kind of avenues of using children's literature to help you. Number one, you want to make sure that your child is surrounded by literature where they see people that look different, people who are different, people that come from different backgrounds, people that stories are different. We want to make sure that our kids are not just seeing, I'm gonna be blunt, little white male protagonists in their stories. And so it's important to make sure, and I have a few of my favorites back here, to make sure that we're showing a variety of multicultural literature to our kiddos, because they may not have exposure. You may live in a community where everyone looks like you and everyone believes in the same thing and everyone worships the same type of religion. And so this is a great way for you to open your kiddos' eyes to the fact that the world is a very big place and that there are all different kinds of people in it, and that should be celebrated. So step 1 of reading is making sure that you're surrounding your kiddo with different types of literature, different types of stories, and different types of characters. So I have everything behind me from We Are Wonders, based on the book Wonder, Malala's Magic Pencil, I Am Jazz, Ruby's Wish, Nino Wrestles the World, which is a really, really cute book. And then Last Stop on Market Street, some of my other favorites that if you follow Giving Project, you may have heard before. The second step of reading is that you can use children's literature to help you with your conversations. Children's literature has been very well crafted. There are some incredible, incredible picture books that can help you where you might feel stuck. I'm a teacher. I feel very comfortable conversing with my child about what's going on in the world, but a lot of my friends and a lot of people that have reached out are so upset and so frustrated themselves that they feel like they don't even know where to begin this conversation. And so you can use book like Henry's Freedom Box, which talks about the Underground Railroad, or The True Story of Ruby Bridges is a phenomenal, phenomenal book, and a great place to start because kiddos really are easily to connect with a child who's going through that struggle. And another one of my favorites that I read to my older kiddo last night is called Let the Children March, which is obviously very applicable right now. It's by Monica Clark Robinson. This is a book that talks about how this is a true story. So in the very beginning, it talks about the history of the civil rights movement and the Children's Crusade, and then goes through a story about how kiddos decided to march, and some of them got arrested, and some of them got sprayed with fire hoses, and what that experience was like for them. Again, this is where we got to the point where my 4-year-old said, I know him, which was really great to see. I would put out the caveat that if your child is a very sensitive child or doesn't have an awareness of what's going on, this is probably not the place to start. Again, I read it with my 4-year-old last night, and he wasn't really fazed by the fact of watching the kiddos get sprayed with the hose. He had a lot of questions about that, and whether or not that really happened and how could we do that to people, let alone kiddos. But this didn't cause him nightmares. Again, this is really important literature, but not a great place to start. It's a great place to further the conversation. So again, you can use children's literature to talk about where we are now and what our history with racism is, both with the African American community as well as a variety of other issues that we have in our country. So children's literature is step 2. So talk, step 1. Step 2, use literature and read. And step 3 is act. So how do we act as parents, particularly with young children? What has been so incredibly inspiring, particularly in the last week, is watching the groups of high school students and middle school students create marches and create art, and really start leading the march and really being the people that are pushing us forward and driving us there. So I would say a great step, a simple step, is making art with your kids, talking to them after what this is, and then letting them express themselves and talking about, do you have a dream like Martin Luther King? What is your dream? Do you, can you draw a picture of you and a favorite friend who might not look like you? Or, what do you see as our future, and how do we get there? So creating art is a great way to do it. Creating signs that go on your car or in your front window, or using chalk to write, inspirational quotes or Black Lives Matter or whatever that may be, is a great way to connect with your kid through art when talking about this. A second step could be marching. Find a local march. If you feel comfortable, both with the pandemic and putting your child in that situation, I would find, there have been great ones led by high schools, which is usually a great safe place to start. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then show them pictures, show them videos of what a march looks like, a peaceful march, or the moments of silence and what that is meant to express. And then the third thing is donate. Find something or a place that you feel comfortable donating your money towards. I know for us, one of the things that we did was we donated to the NAACP. We donated to a couple local organizations that help in impoverished neighborhoods with education and social emotional needs, which I think is a really, really important thing to think about. And talk to your kids about it. Talk to them about why. Talk to them about what do they think? How can we help? You might be surprised that your kiddos have really great ideas and are really in touch with themselves and their feelings and how we can fix this problem. So again, a reminder that this is meant to be a structure that helps you talk, read, act. This is meant to start the conversation. This is not going to be a conversation that's had. This is not a problem that can be fixed with one conversation. But this is a problem that is boiled over, and it's not going to go away, and it's not going to be fixed right away. And so it is imperative that we talk to our kids for a variety of reasons. A, they are our future. They are the ones that are going to be taking care of this nation. And I hope that it is not as bruised and battered as it is right now, and that we can heal our wounds and move forward and do it in a positive way, and so that our kids can truly see the world that MLK dreamt of, and our kids can take over this world together, hand in hand. So if you have any questions or anything else that I can do to help, please let me know. I posted a great list from our local bookstore of some great African American literature written by Black authors and featuring Black characters. You may also find that Amazon and stores are out of books. They don't keep a ton of Moses in stock, but it's a phenomenal book. Another great place to look is the Caldecott books, which is a picture book award, as well as the Coretta Scott King Awards that are great places to start for literature. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I hope that this can help you have a conversation with your kid to move our world forward and fix these problems. Have a great day.